Hi everyone. So one of the perks that is available for VIP members of this channel is real-world examples for essays. Now, if you go through the syllabus, the essays that will be in Paper 1 Part B, which will require real-world examples, are the ones that are under the Assessment Objective 3. AO3 is basically the level of assessment where you have to evaluate and you have to discuss using real-world examples. And the first thing in our syllabus that kind of fits or shows Assessment Objective 3 is the Behavioral Economics unit, which is unit 2.4 of the syllabus, critique of the maximizing behavior of consumers and producers. So here I have an article that I got from Skyward. The article is titled 8 Marketing Takeaways from Behavioral Economics by the Skyward staff, and it's published on September 28th, 2020. The link to the article can be found in the description below this video. This is just to give you an idea of how I intend to approach real-world examples for VIP members. So let's have a look at some of the things, the marketing takeaways from behavioral economics. There are just some things I want to highlight in the article. So if you look here, it says that emotions take part in shaping our economic choices. And in fact, behavioral economists tell us that consumer decision-making is 30% rational and 70% emotional. This is clear that consumers are not always rational when they make economic choices, okay? So, in order to improve engagement, marketers have to understand that customers are human beings whose purchasing decisions are strongly influenced by emotions. Okay, behavioral economics can provide valuable insights for marketers by helping them to identify behaviors and adapt to customers' irrational biases and emotional demands and needs. So you can see that rational consumer theory assumes that customers or consumers are rational, but in reality, we're only 30% rational and 70% emotional. So let's scroll down this article. So here are 8 takeaways from behavioral economics that can help marketers improve their relationship. Number 1, social proof. This one's really interesting. Customers look to other people for information on what to buy or what service to use. Customers might make a decision based on social norms in order to gain acceptance by others. So traditional word of mouth can increase customer base, but online reviews are also important in serving as social proof for consumers. So there was a local survey where 90% of consumers said they read reviews for local businesses, and the average consumer reads 10 reviews before feeling able to trust the business. So marketers can concentrate on getting customer feedback and promoting positive reviews in order to provide social proof. This can also apply to vaccine hesitancy. In areas where people know quite a lot of people in their social circle that have received the COVID-19 vaccine, you'll see an uptick in vaccination in those areas compared to areas where people don't know that many people that have received the vaccine. And interestingly, that's why Facebook uses tools like getting you to change your profile picture to say that you've been vaccinated, and tools to help you find a local vaccination site. So social proof, that's something. We are social animals and we're very heavily influenced by other people. Number 2, loss aversion. What does that mean? Now, this one's really interesting. When I read the article, consumers are more willing to take risks in order to avoid losing than in order to pursue gaining things. Okay, so the psychological pain from losing is twice the amount of pleasure of a gain. Now, how do marketers use this? Well, this is an example of a tweet. So instead of tweeting, save $100 a year in energy by buying our programmable thermostat, it's actually better to say, stop losing $100 every year in energy by buying our programmable thermostat. You'll see more results. Customers hate losing more than they like winning or gaining. This is really interesting, and it's very, at the end of the day, you are saving $100, but how you frame the message affects consumers. Consumers are more likely to act if the message is talking about what they lose if they don't act, as opposed to the pleasure of gaining if they do act. So this is, again, something I found quite interesting. All right, the endowment effect. This one's also very interesting. Consumers value items they own, which they have an emotional attachment to, more than a similar item owned by someone else. So establishing a customer's partial ownership in an item being marketed through customization can increase emotional attachment. Where I think customization can be much more useful is to get you to put more of you in the product and make it more valuable. Okay, so again, making products more customizable for some reason makes the product more valuable and makes customers more likely to buy it. Okay, now this one you will recognize from the behavioral economics unit. Default. Okay, so defaults are preset options or courses of action that consumers receive, such as, for example, automatic enrollment in a 401k retirement plan by an employer. Because consumers would rather avoid losing things than take a risk for a gain, they are unlikely to defect from a default option. If marketers give consumers a default option, they are helping to define the customer's ownership of the default, making them value that option more and more and be less likely to part with it. Okay, so interesting, the countries in Europe where the default is that if you die, you're an organ donor. So in countries in Europe where upon your death, your organs are donated, that's the default choice. You see higher rates of organ donation than in countries where the default option is if you die, you are not registered as an organ donor. Okay, so again, what you set as the default will influence how customers behave, because customers would much rather avoid losing things than take a risk for a gain. And they're much less likely to defect from a default option. People get lazy. If the default is you're an organ donor, people get lazy to go and change what the default is. If the default is you are registered for the retirement plan by your employer, people get lazy to pull out of that retirement plan. So default choices or preset options are ways to also influence consumers. Again, all of these are showing us how irrational consumers can be. Number 5, choice overload. I thought this was also very interesting because it actually, it's very relevant to me. When consumers are presented with too many options, think of walking down the aisle in a supermarket where you have to choose, you're looking for shampoo and you have 200 different brands to choose from. When consumers are presented with too many options, they can become overwhelmed, leading to unrealistic expectations, decision-making paralysis, and unhappiness. In a study of jam purchases at a supermarket, 30% of shoppers who tried samples made purchases when presented with a choice of 6 jams. 6 jams to choose from, while only 3% ended up making a purchase when presented with a choice of 24 different jams. When you have too many options to choose from, we become overwhelmed. This leads to decision-making paralysis, okay? The shoppers who choose to buy from the selection of 6 jams reported greater satisfaction with their purchases. Offering fewer choices to consumers can increase sales, something I think restaurants can benefit from. You know, when you go to a restaurant and you see a really long menu with too many choices, it can be very overwhelming. I tend to stick with the same choice every time because I'm just overwhelmed to try something new. But imagine walking into a restaurant where there are just 5 or 6 choices that take into consideration people's food allergies and so on. Okay, so this one I found very interesting as well. All right, let's see. Oops, sorry, I moved that. Let's see what else we can learn. Okay, so the 6th takeaway is framing. How marketers frame choices, set the context, and present information can influence consumer decision. Marketers have found that including a few cheaper options increases the likelihood that consumers will purchase a more expensive option. The impact of framing can be observed in a grocery aisle, where products are organized and displayed by customer preference rather than price. Okay, marketers can influence shoppers' purchasing decisions by placing promoted products in places consumers are more likely to choose from. Okay, so if you include a few cheaper options, the likelihood that consumers will purchase a more expensive option actually rises. This is very irrational and it makes no sense because rational consumer theory assumes that consumers will always buy what is cheaper to maximize their utility. So this is also something that is very interesting. All right, number 7, we've got 2 more, the decoy effect and anchoring. The decoy effect, consumers' preference for one option over another can change when a third, similar but less desirable option is presented. Okay, so these economists listed here found that customers are more likely to choose a more expensive pen over $6 in cash if a third less expensive pen is introduced. You can actually introduce products into the market that nobody chooses, but nevertheless have the effect on what people end up getting. The options marketers present ultimately influence customer decision. So if you give say instead of giving consumers a choice between two products, if there's a third similar but less desirable option is presented, that can actually change customers' preference. So here in this research, when consumers had to choose between a pen that was slightly more expensive and a pen that was slightly cheaper, introducing a third less expensive pen actually influenced customers to choose the more expensive pen. Okay, which is really interesting. All right, and last but not least is anchoring. Anchoring is also part of our IB economics syllabus. Consumers will rely heavily on the first piece of information offered. Our brains can't handle a lot of information, and use it as a reference and benchmark for other decisions from that point on, whether it makes sense or not. Remember, consumer decisions are only 30% rational on average and 70% emotional. Marketers can present a high price for one option that can influence subsequent consumer purchases by making other options seem cheaper. How does that work? Well, here's an example. An online store that offers a $399 coat that's been marked down to $99, that creates an idea that an expensive and therefore more desirable coat is now a great buy. So instead of just listing the coat as $99 as the price, actually mentioning that, hey, this coat is worth $399, but it's down to $99, that could actually influence customers to buy. So using these insights from behavioral economics can help marketers nurture positive consumer relationships and drive company growth. Now, I know this is not a business management course, and you might be thinking, well, why are we looking at these as real-world examples? Remember, Unit 2.4 is about critiquing the maximizing behavior of consumers and producers. And we look at rational consumer theory and the assumptions behind rational consumer theory. We also look at the limitations of the assumptions of rational consumer choice. We look at biases, bounded rationality, bounded self-control, bounded selfishness, imperfect information, as well as choice architecture. How giving customers default choices or restricted choices or mandated choices, and we look at nudge theory. So these are all good real-world examples that you can use in any essay that's a paper 1 part B that requires you to critique the maximizing behavior of consumers. Again, the link to the article can be found in the description below. Let me know what you think of this video, because I'm willing to share one of these once a month, maybe talk about real-world examples that are useful for paper 1 part B essays. As I mentioned earlier, this is a perk for VIP members. This will be the first video that I'll make available for everyone, but if you want to access this real-world examples, I would encourage you to become a VIP member, and I'll talk about that in the next slide if you just hang on for a few seconds. So what do I mean by become a VIP member? Well, if you look here, to become a member of this channel and access exclusive perks that are only for members, the link is below in the video description. It's basically this link right here. Okay, this is one way you can support this channel. Other ways you can support this channel, well, creating videos for this channel takes time and energy. If you want to show your support, buy me a coffee. Again, it's a platform like Patreon where you can just buy me a coffee. The cost of coffee is about $5. Okay. Once again, if you're looking for online tutoring as an IB Economics student or online coaching for teachers that are new to IB Economics, please go to ibeconguru.com and fill out a contact form. Now, there are several other ways you can support the channel if you don't want to spend money. I get it, right? You can like this video, you can share this video, you can comment on this video, and you can subscribe to the channel. You might think that these are all little things that don't make a difference, but they do. They actually influence the YouTube all-knowing algorithm. Once again, as I said, all links are listed below in the video description. The link to the article that I talked about, as well as links to support me on buymeacoffee.com or to become a member of this channel to access exclusive members only perks, as well as the link if you want online tutoring or online coaching. Have a great rest of your week, and I hope you enjoyed this. And please leave a comment down below and tell me what you think. And remember, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.